Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, don't shut the kirtan off in the middle of the mantra.
Okay, sure Maharaj. Okay.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
We've been instructing the host not to do that. You always let the mantra finish to the end and then you shut it.
Okay, Maharaj. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, it's important.
Okay.
Please remember that.
Sure, Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, ready to go. My obeisances to you and to all the devotees. Panchakopa Darubhascha Kripasinda Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. We can continue with our chapter 22. Ekam Nyabhuta Vyadam Tavahim Sandayo Gunaha Haribhakto Pravrittaye Nateshu Panatapinaha. O hunter, good qualities like non-violence, which you have developed, are not very astonishing. For those who are engaged in the Lord's devotion are never inclined to give pain to others because of envy. This is a quotation from Skanda Purana, spoken by Narada Muni to the reform hunter Magari. Omagyantu medandasya ginanjana salakaya chaksun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Satarne Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Violence is fueled by envy. When one is violent towards another person with no apparent cause, it causes envy. And so here, one of the qualities of a devotee is that they're nonviolent. So that is something that comes automatically by performing devotional service, because they see the super soul and the soul situated in the heart of all living entities. They never envy anyone, therefore there's never any question of committing violence to any living entities, even an ant. A devotee will not even kill an ant because he knows, or she knows, that Krishna is there in the heart of that ant. So this quality of nonviolence, as Narada Muni is speaking to Magari, is not a very exalted quality. You find that even people in the material world who are not devotees, they claim to be nonviolent, but they're violent because although they claim to be nonviolent, they may kill other living entities such as ants or bugs, or they may eat foodstuffs that are based on violence towards other living entities, or they favor one type of living entity over another type of living entity. So people who claim to be non-violent cannot be fully non-violent unless they are devotees, because it says, Yagna Shishta Siddho Shanto Kilbisa. What is that verse? Yagya Shashta Siddho Shanto Munchite Sarva Kilbisha. Bunchite te Gampapam Ye Prachatman Karana. That the living entities eat food that is first offered to sacrifice. Those who offer food, who eat food simply for sense gratification, are verily committing sin. So unless a person offers their food to Krishna as yagya, sacrifice, they are violent, because to eat means jiva jiva jivanam, means to take the life of another living entity. Not all vegetables are being killed when they're eaten, such as when you take a tomato, you pick it from the plant. When you take a fruit from a tree, the tree still continues to live. But there are certain vegetables and other roots that when you take them and use them for food, you actually are committing violence unless you offer those things in sacrifice. And therefore, nonviolence is not really a glorifiable quality, because only those who would engage in devotional service are actually nonviolent in the true sense of the word. Because just like if you're breathing, you're also killing living entities by breathing. Just why you see there's one class of living entities called Jains, and they wear these masks over their face in order when they breathe, they don't kill other living entities. That is not perfect. It's fraught with many kinds of flaws. But the principle is that if one kills another living entity, then one has to be responsible to receive some reaction for that. But one engages in devotional service, because they are engaged in devotional service, if they inadvertently, just say like you're painting a wall and you paint over a living entity that's been on the wall, that wouldn't be a sin because you're painting the wall in Krishna's temple, and therefore you're engaged in devotional service. But one who's painting the wall for their own house will get a reaction for that. So the subtle laws of material energy are very strong and very binding. And so one cannot cause harm to any other living entity, but if one is engaged in devotional service, even if they inadvertently kill a living entity by devotional service, not intentionally, but by force of situation, they are not responsible because they are engaged in devotional service. Of course, one should not do that automatically and think that because I'm engaged in devotional service, I can be free. These things are done eating bird. Just like when you smash spices in order to cook, there are living entities in this that are taking root in these spices, and you're smashing them also. When they take the cocoa plant from the cocoa plant, there are many bugs in the cocoa. And therefore, when they process the cocoa plant to make chocolate, the bugs get smashed along with the fruit of the plant, and there's a reaction to that. So, but if one is in devotional service and one is engaged in eating by offering everything first to the Lord, then there will be no material reactions for that. Next verse. Vaidhi bhakti saranera kalilum vivadanam Vairi Bhakti Saranera Kalilum Vivaranam Raganuga Bhaktira Lakshanam Suna Sanatana. My dear Sanatana, I have now in detail described devotional service according to the regulative principles. Now hear from me about spontaneous devotional service and their characteristics. So Lord Chaitanya is speaking to Sanatana Goswami this whole chapter. He has finished his description of regulative devotional service. Now he will talk about Raganuga Bhakti, or the second half of Sadhana Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service.
Should I go to the next one, Maharaj?
Yeah. Ragatmika Bhakti Mukhya Rajavasa Jane Tara Anagata Bhaktira Raganuga Name. The original inhabitants of Vrindavan are attached to Krishna spontaneously in devotional service. Nothing can compare to such spontaneous devotional service, which is called Ragatmika Bhakti. When a devotee follows in the footsteps of the devotees of Vrindavan, his devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami states, when a pure devotee follows the footsteps of the devotees of Vrindavan, he develops Raganuga Bhakti. Ishtaswarasika Raga Parama Vishtata Bhavet Tanmaya Bhavet Bhakti Satra Ragat Mikodita. When one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to one's natural inclination to love Him and is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord, that stage is called transcendental attachment. And devotional service according to that attachment is called Ragatmika, or spontaneous devotional service. This verse is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Istaganda Trishna Vagivera Sarup Lakshana Ista Avastata E Tatasta Lakshanam. The primary characteristics of spontaneous love is deep attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Absorption in thoughts of Him is a marginal characteristic. So we are instructed to always think of Krishna, but here it says that those who are spontaneously engaged in love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking of Him is a marginal characteristic. Their natural love brings them to always remembering Him with devotion, with love. Ragatmaye Bhaktira Hoya Ragatmika Nama Tahasuna Lubya Hoya Kona Bhagyavan. Thus, devotional service which consists of raga, deep attachment, is called Ragatmika, spontaneous loving service. If a devotee covets such a position, he is considered to be most fortunate. To reach this stage of bhakti, a person is most fortunate. Dobra Vraja Bastira Bhavakara Anugati Shastra Yukta Nai Mane Ragunu Prakriti. If one follows in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan out of such transcendental covetedness, he does not care for the injunctions or reasonings of Shastra. That is the way of spontaneous love. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati says that a devotee is attracted by the service of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, namely the cowherd men, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yasoda, Radharani, the gopis, and the cows and calves. An advanced devotee is attracted by the service rendered by the eternal servitor of the Lord. This attraction is called spontaneous attraction. Technically, it's called Sarupa Upalabdhi. This stage is not achieved in the beginning. In the beginning, one has to render service strictly according to the regulative principles set forth by the revealed scriptures and the spiritual master. By continuously rendering service through the process of Vaidhi Bhakti, one's natural inclination is gradually awakened. This is called spontaneous attraction or Raganuga Bhakti. An advanced devotee situated on the platform of spontaneity is a very, very expert in shastric injunctions, logic, and argument. When he comes to the point of eternal love for Krishna, no one can deviate him from that position, neither by argument nor by shastric evidence. An advanced devotee has realized his eternal relationship with the Lord, and consequently, he does not accept the logic and arguments of others. Such an advanced devotee has nothing to do with sahajiyas who manufacture their own way and commit sins by indulging in illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, if not meat eating. Sometimes the sahajiyas imitate advanced devotees and live in their own whimsical way, avoiding the principles set down in the revealed scriptures. Unless one follows the six Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Bhatt, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatt, and Raghunath Das, one cannot be a bona fide lover of Krishna. In this connection, Narottam Das says, Rupa Raghunatha Pare Hobi Akoite Kabe, Havi Vuja Se Yugala Pariti. The Sahajiya's understanding of the love affairs between Radha and Krishna is not bona fide because they do not follow the principles laid down by the six Goswamis. Their illicit connection and their initiation of the dress of Rupa Goswami, as well as their avoidance of the prescribed means of revealed scriptures, will lead them to the lowest regions of hell. These imitative sahajiyas are cheated and unfortunate. They are not equal to advanced devotees. Paramahansas, Debauchees, and Paramahansas are not on the same level. So we see throughout Prabhupada's explanations of devotional service, he is very enthusiastic to show what is not. And especially in this age of Kali, which is full of faults, there are many cheaters, many imitators, many persons who pose themselves as advanced and exhibit the external symptoms of advanced devotees, but in their heart and mind, they're still after material happiness and material gain. Many of them pose themselves as leaders amongst their groups of people and speak very nicely on the Shastras to enchant and bewilder the minds of their followers and others. And they do not follow any rules and regulations, saying that they are on the spontaneous platform and there's no need to. Such persons are described here by Srila Prabhupada. And although, because they do not follow in the footsteps of the bona fide spiritual teachers, Lord Chaitanya has given the process clearly to the six Goswamis, especially Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. These three were directly recipients of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. As we can see here, this particular chapter is Lord Chaitanya's talks to Sanatan Goswami. So they are the representatives of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, which are pure devotional service. So unless one follows in the footsteps of the followers of Lord Chaitanya, which are the six Goswamis, one is asara, Asara means useless. Their activities have no value, and they take themselves along with their followers to the process of hellish life. Prabhupada says lowest regions of hell. So a thief is a thief, but if a thief dresses up as a policeman, he looks like he is a law and order abider, or one who keeps the law and order by punishing others. But because he's not of that nature, he's just dressed in a different way. His sinful activities bring him faster to hell than those who do not disguise themselves but are just genuine teachers. Because those who present themselves in one way, the hypocrites or the sahajiyas, they're not only cheating themselves, but they're also cheating others, and therefore their advancement to hell is quick and complete. But here we find that there is the process, just like you have counterfeit dollars and you have real dollars, counterfeit euros, counterfeit rupees, counterfeit pounds, and you have real ones. So just because there are real ones, it doesn't mean they're all real. There are some that are counterfeit. But because some are counterfeit, that doesn't mean there isn't any real ones either. So the reality is that there is natural, loving, spontaneous devotion to Krishna in Vrindavan. But one has to, Mahajano Yena Katasa Pantan, one has to follow in the footsteps of the great souls and learn the process directly from them and attach oneself to a pure representative of Vrindavan, a resident of Vrindavan, and follow that person by glorifying and hearing from that person's teaching. And by following the process of devotional service as given by one's spiritual master, attaching oneself to a resident in Vrindavan and glorifying them, gradually one comes to the higher stage of bhakti, which is spontaneous love. And on that platform, as the verse says, there's only one rule and regulation, and that is love. When one has love for Krishna, all the other rules, regulations, requirements, restrictions, everything follows automatically. So it's not that one who has spontaneous love may sometimes not follow the rules and regulations, but they are above the rules and regulations because the rules and regulations are meant to get one to the platform of transcendence where love develops. But if one has already achieved the stage of love, then the lower principles do not apply because they have achieved the benefit of the lower principles already. So you see how, and here the process of bhakti is described by mentioning the different personalities who are representative, such as the cowherd man, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the calves, the cows, Yasoda, Radharani, the gopis, all of these different personalities who represent different relationships with Krishna, but all in spontaneous attraction to Krishna, are the emblems or the personalities by which one who wants to achieve that state of spontaneous attraction. And Lord Chaitanya mentions that unless one comes to spontaneous devotional service, their devotional service is incomplete. So this spontaneity, as Lord Chaitanya is teaching here in these verses, is actually the culmination of the perfection of devotional service, which is the whole process. One cannot stay on the platform of rules and regulations forever. If they do, then whatever level they have achieved on that will bring them to another verse in the next slide where they pick up. But one has to come to that stage of spontaneous attraction for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sarokabonoi Sravanadi Siddhi Chitte Koriye Udoi. In the hearts of all living entities, pure love for Krishna is already there. It doesn't have to be brought in from the outside. It is spontaneous. It's the nature of the soul's existence. And when it's awakened, it immediately attracts Krishna, it attracts Krishna to that living entity. And so, but there is a process for awakening it. And here, as it's mentioned, to follow in the footsteps of a great soul and engage in devotional service carefully under the under the care of the bona fide spiritual master, and hear about and read about and try to understand the love of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. What is the nature of their love and how that love manifests itself in their relationship to Krishna. So this verse here and purport kind of sums up the whole process right here. At the same time, it gives a disclaimer for anyone else outside of that as being someone who is just a cheater, and that goes on. Even in our ISKCON society, we have devotees who were imitating these higher mellows of devotional service when Srila Prabhupada was here. Only even after about 5 years of Krishna conscious practice in the West, some devotees had created a group within ISKCON called the Gopi Bhava Club. And they were imitating the love of the residents of Vrindavan. This went on for some time until it was revealed to Srila Prabhupada that this was happening. When Prabhupada heard about it, he immediately said, stop it. It's pretentious. This happens only on the higher levels of devotional service, not by externally making a display of it. You can dress up as a policeman, but if you're a crook, you'll still act like a crook. It doesn't matter. So devotional service is real and is not artificial. It's not pretense. It's not about acting. It's about awakening something that is eternally there within our nature, spontaneous, attracted to Krishna. Once that's awakened, through the hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, as explained here, in relationship to the residents of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Okay, thank you. We can stop here.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining all these verses about the spontaneous love for Krishna. Thank you so much. I request devotees, if there are any questions, comments, realizations, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my August to Prabhupada, August to your lotus feet. I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to turn on the camera. If I may ask, thank you for the nice class. Guru Maharaj, it is still not clear. If I may please ask you to explain the difference between Raganuga Bhakti and Ragatmika Bhakti.
I think Ragatmika was defined in these different slokas. And that's one who has achieved Raganuga Bhakti. One can be engaged in spontaneous devotional service, and that is also a process of development. When one becomes fixed in Raganuga Bhakti, then he's called Ragatmika.
Oh, so the definition that was told here was when one follows the footsteps of a resident of Vrindavan in a particular emotion, that's Ragatmika.
Yeah.
Also, you're saying the perfection of Raganuga Bhakti is Ragatmika Bhakti?
No, the perfection comes when one follows in the footsteps of a resident of Vrindavan and achieves the results of that following, which is spontaneously attracted to Krishna. Spontaneity is a developing process also, just like there are different speeds you can travel at. You can travel at 20 miles an hour, you can travel at 50 miles an hour. So the traveling is going on, but it's at different levels. So in the same way, spontaneous devotional service it can also be spontaneous in higher levels of spontaneity. And these are different symptoms that manifest in the minds and hearts and the life of a devotee as that spontaneity reaches higher and higher levels of attraction. And then you get into higher, you have Ragatmika Bhakti, you have, what is it? I mean, there's Bhava, there's, I mean, the highest is Mahabhava.
I know. Raga, Anuraga, Bhava, and Mahabhava.
Yeah, Raga, Anuraga, right. The different levels or symptoms that come in the process of Raganuga Bhakti. So Ragatmika is, as you rightly explained, when you follow in the footsteps of a particular personality.
If I may reiterate, so Ragatmika Bhakti is included in the Raganuga Bhakti.
Say again.
Ragatmika
I'm in Mayapur, and they play these classes on the loudspeaker really loud. So I hear it's all the way into my room, so it's hard to sometimes hear. So speak a little bit louder.
Sorry, Guru Maharaj. So Guru Maharaj, Ragatmika Bhakti is included in Raganuga Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti is a broad category under which Ragatmika Bhakti is included. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah. Because you have Sadhana Bhakti is divided into Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. But then Sadhana Bhakti goes into a higher levels of Bhava Bhakti. And in Bhava Bhakti, there's 6 stages of Bhava. And then when Bhava reaches its perfection in the 6 stages, it goes into Prema Bhakti, which has 8 stages. So I would say Ragatmika is on the border of Bhava Bhakti.
Okay.
That would be my understanding. For clarification in detail, I would suggest you read Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Jaiva Dharma, which he describes the entire process in detail in the later pages of the book.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. I will go back there. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Sridevi.
Sridevi, go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for this lecture. In the course of the lecture, I was a little bit puzzled by one statement. You said that we have to be so careful in our actions because we will get a reaction for violence, even committed unknowingly. At that point, you said, if you're painting on a wall in Krishna's temple, you paint over a bug, you won't get a reaction. But if you do the same thing at home, you will get a reaction. So, but aren't our homes also temples where we are worshiping Krishna, offering food to Krishna?
Well, the point is, when you're engaged in devotional service, you're automatically on the liberated platform. Even if you accidentally or unknowingly commit some harm to another living entity, because you're engaged in devotional service, You are not responsible for that. Prabhupada talks about that directly, and he uses the same example I use, painting on the wall, the same thing. And so, but if you're doing that same painting at your house and it's not devotional service, then you will get, or even if you don't know, because you are acting for yourself. So the difference is, one is acting for their own benefit, one is acting for Krishna's benefit. That's the dividing line.
If you don't mind, Guru Maharaj, I would like to understand this properly. So that's why I'm asking for the question.
That's a matter of conscious. That's a matter of consciousness. It's a matter of consciousness. If you're actually serving Krishna, whatever place you're serving Krishna, if you're serving Krishna, that's devotional service. If you're not serving Krishna, no matter who, even if you're in the temple and you're not serving Krishna, you will get a reaction.
Oh.
It's a matter of consciousness. Are you serving Krishna or are you serving yourself?
Right. So the consciousness makes the difference. When we absorbed in Krishna's seva, then inadvertently, even if we make a mistake, we don't get a reaction.
Yeah, but you shouldn't think that I can do that and get away with it. That's not the idea.
Right. One must be careful. Okay. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. That helps me understand better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Is there anyone else who would like to share any realizations or ask any question?
Tulsi Manjari.
Yeah, I don't see any raised hand, Maharaj, or any question.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Namrata Mataji, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, Maharaj, I wasn't able to attend the half part of the lecture, but I have one question regarding the marginal energy of Krishna. May I?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are three energies of Krishna. The first one is internal energy, external energy, and the marginal energy. So marginal energy is again divided into Mahatmas and Duratmas. Am I correct?
Marginal energy is the jiva in the material world.
Jiva and the material world. Okay.
That's marginal energy. The jiva is by nature spiritual. But the jiva in the material world is marginal. That means it can go either way, towards the material or towards the spiritual. That's what marginal means. The jiva in the material world can go towards Krishna or towards material energy. That's what it means to be marginal. The other energies are just what they are. There's the external material energy made up to three modes of material nature, and the internal spiritual energy, which is the energy by which Krishna conducts all spiritual affairs.
Maharaj, the marginal energy is the Jivatma. It can be material, it can be spiritual as well. So the living entities that has descended for the purpose of Krishna, I mean, for doing the service for Krishna, like the Goswamis and all, how do we categorize them?
Well, there is Nitya Siddhis who come to the material world to do the work of the Lord. They are fully engaged in the spiritual energy. So well, for the sake of categorization, we always say that the living entity in the material world is marginal because it can go either way. But these personalities who come on behalf of the Lord won't take up the spiritual material energy. They'll stay connected to the spiritual energy. So they won't gravitate towards the material. So in that sense, because they are in the category of marginal, that means they can go either way. They won't. It's just the fact that they won't. So these persons are called Nitya Siddhis, or eternally liberated souls.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. That clarifies.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
No more questions?
Sridevi Mataji has one more question. Mataji, please.
Guru Maharaj, please, if I may, this Jain, custom of putting the mask in order not to kill living entities while breathing, how is that possible? Because they're breathing anyway. And
yeah, it's not foolproof.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
It's an attempt, but it's not. You just can't do it. As long as you're in the material world and you're acting, you will somehow or other cause you'll cause some harm to other living entities. Just the way the material world is constituted. Every time you breathe, you kill living entities. These are germs. If you have cancer in the body and you try to treat the cancer, you're killing those cancer cells. They're living beings too. You can't get away from killing. It's just not possible.
These are such deeply, these subtle laws of the material energy, the reactions, these are such deep things. And until we come across Srila Prabhupada's books, we don't even know about these things. What to speak of understanding the reactions and the ramifications of our reactions.
Yeah, Prabhupada would always use, you're walking down the street, you're automatically stepping on living entities. But if you're walking for Krishna, then there's no reaction to that. Just like you can eat food, but if you don't offer it to Krishna in sacrifice, then you get a reaction for that, even if it's vegetarian, so-called. Yeah, this material world is constituted jiva jiva sajivanam. One living entity is food for another living entity.
Thank you, Maharaj. Raj Prabhu had raised hand. Prabhuji, do you have any question to share?
Raj, yeah, Raj has a. Raj, you have a question?
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to yourself, Maharaj. I wanted to ask, when you were talking about if one is engaged in some service and it could be material or it could be devotional service, it could be spiritual. And I wanted to ask, is it like, does it work like a pendulum? It could be one or the other, or is it like temperature where it could be cold, warm, you know, like you could be 10% devotional or 20% or 90%?
Well, to get to the intricacies of your statement, devotion exists in all activities, even material activities, but not devotional service. Because devotion is there everywhere into some element or some degree. But unless one follows the instructions of the spiritual master and engages in devotional service to the Lord according to those instructions, one is acting independently. For instance, say your spiritual master says to serve in this way, and you want to serve in another way, and you don't follow that instruction, you want to serve in another way. And so you're doing service in the sense that you're offering the activities. For instance, say your spiritual master says, you know, go out and distribute books. And you think, well, I'll just go to the park and distribute prasadam to the pigeons. So you get some nice bread or something that's been offered to Krishna. So you can't say that's not devotional service, because the bread is prasadam and you're distributing prasadam to other living entities. But that wasn't the instruction of your spiritual master. But if you do the instructions of your spiritual master and then you do extra on your own, that's fine. But to neglect the instructions of the spiritual master and to end is an offense against the holy name of the Lord.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you.
So when we do activities based on our own desire, it's more like karma yoga instead of bhakti yoga. When we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, then it's bhakti.
I see. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Prem Kishore, you're back.
Sorry, Guru Maharaj. Just a continuation from what Sridevi Mataji was saying, that and then you explained that so-called vegetarian is also not free from sinful reaction. Just want to clarify if my understanding is correct. Then that means that the mode of goodness, even though conducive to cultivate Krishna consciousness, is not all in all.
No, because it's still in the material energy. Prabhupada would use that example. If you kill a person, obviously that's a great sin and is a heavy reaction. If you kill an animal, you might think, well, but still the killing is going on. So even the vegetarians are getting reactions because they are engaged in killing to some degree. So again, what was your question?
And that was more of a clarification that we are trying to cultivate at least to the minimum mode of goodness, but now I'm realizing that mode of goodness is also not all in all, because it is not completely free from all the cycle.
The mode of goodness is never stable anyway, because the three modes are always interacting. And it mentions in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the modes are always in contention for supremacy. So you may be situated in a mode of goodness or acting in a mode of goodness under one situation, but then you may also fall to the modes of ignorance and passion in another. To be fixed in the mode of goodness really means to follow all of the characteristics of Brahminical life. In other words, the Brahmanas, who are Paka Brahmanas, they are fixed in the mode of goodness. But because they're not engaged in devotional service, we have the example of Maharaj, what was it? What was his name?
Bharat Maharaj or
No, the one that had to take birth as a lizard.
oh, Nriga, King Nriga.
King Riga, yeah. He was always giving charity to the Brahmanas, and he was expert in performing Vedic sacrifices and charity. Also, King Prachinibarhishat, Narada Muni also explained to him. Both of them, both had to re-experience the reactions of their activities, because even in the mode of goodness, one can also act in the lower modes. It's hard to find a pure mode of goodness unless you're in an atmosphere where you can practice Brahminical life perfectly. And that means the 12 qualities of a Brahmana, plus the activities of a Brahmana. A pure Brahmana is in the mode of goodness. But who's a pure Brahmana now?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Yes, Guru Maharaj, sorry.
Yeah, but so the mode of goodness is a stepping stone to transcendence, because you can't go to transcendence through the lower modes. You have to go from the mode of goodness to Sudasattva, or transcendental goodness, which means devotional service.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. It's a very realistic picture of where we are. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, 100. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make sure I answered your question. I'm not sure I covered all the points that you were trying to uncover.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I was seeking more of a clarification. It was not a question, clarification. But yes, Guru Maharaj, I'm fully satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Sridevi.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I'm just asking questions after Prem Kishori asked her question, if you don't mind. So we want to go to the mode of transcendence, though we are mixed up right now. So striving for the mode of goodness is a preliminary goal so that we can reach the mode of transcendence. And how can we strive to overcome the lower modes and majorly be in the mode of goodness at least?
Cultivate those qualities that are in the mode of goodness, but engage in devotional service. Our goal is not to get to the mode of goodness. Our goal is to engage in devotional service. But mode of goodness, devotional service requires one to act in with the qualities of the mode of goodness. That's all. Such as humility, tolerance, peacefulness, pridelessness, equanimity, simplicity, knowing the scriptures, be able to speak the scriptures. What are some of the other qualities? Following religious principles. These are all parts of the mode of goodness. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. So practice those. Practice being humble, practice being tolerant. When you find yourself in these situations, then
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
I had an incident today where I could have reacted in the wrong way, but somehow or other by Krishna's arrangement, I didn't. And if I would have, it would have shown that I was really affected by the modes of passion and ignorance, and I had no tolerance. You know, something happened to me that caused me to either become angry or to become tolerant. I became angry, but at the same time, I was able to tolerate the force of anger and go on. But it was a real test. It was a real test. But it happened so fast that I think it was Krishna's mercy. I acted in the right way, or not acted in the right way, but didn't act in the wrong way. So we find ourselves in situations like that. When sometimes we fall prey to the lower modes, we get angry, we get envious, we get bewildered, or sometimes we're able to see Krishna in everything and somehow or other tolerate the situation and go on in our devotional service. So this practicing will help us to come to the stage of developing these qualities. If you don't practice them, you won't develop them, at least completely.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I really get the lesson over here, because it's not so easy to be tolerant or to be patient, especially when you're stressed or you're tired or you're hungry and people are annoying you and saying or doing wrong things. It's so easy to just lose it or say something and offend people. So one has to really work very hard to, I mean, speaking of myself, I'm speaking of myself here, to try to control these
You know what it's like going into the temple early in the morning, right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I'm becoming a pro at that now. I just allow everybody to push and comment and do whatever they like. I just keep my eyes on Lord Chaitanya, finished. I close my eyes and yes to everything. Else, what else to do?
Yeah. The doorway fits about 3 people at once, but there's 8 people trying to get through the doorway at the same time, you know. So somebody doesn't make it.
I just try to remember that Lord Chaitanya tolerated that old lady stepping right on his shoulder to see the Lord. And I think if Lord Chaitanya can do that, what am I? Nothing.
And it's a nice example. Nice example. Yeah. Srimati.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, Guru Maharaj, I'm not able to turn on my camera. But I was thinking about what Prem Kishori Mataji and Sridevi Mataji was asking about non-violence. And so in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, Krishna is mentioning about non-violence. So yeah, unknowingly or knowingly, we do a lot of things in our daily activities, hurting others, or like someone hurts us. So like this, lot of things go on. Guru Maharaj, like most of the time we think that most of the time we try to avoid those situations, or most of the time we try to tolerate. But Krishna helps us some way to realize our mistakes and all. So I just want to ask you, like, will Krishna see this, like our struggles, like how we are tolerating and how we are not able to maintain this non-violence? So how these reactions will be there, Guru Maharaj, in our devotional practice?
Well, that's up to Krishna, but if you're trying, Krishna knows your heart. But sometimes you're pushed beyond your ability to tolerate, or a circumstance comes, which is really something that really causes you to react in the wrong way, you just apologize for that or go on in your devotional service. These things do happen. If there is an obviously offense that's committed, then some apology, some desire to serve the person that you may have offended or said something wrong to, like that, and you go on. There's no loss as long as you or you don't justify your wrong mentality by saying, well, this is the situation and this is what happens, therefore, the way I acted was right. No. If we become victimized by these lower qualities, then that becomes something we can see within ourselves as something we need to work on. That's all. But we don't say, well, because I'm not up to the standard, it's all right. No, it's not all right. But at the same time, it's not going to take you away in devotional service. You still have to strive to develop these higher consciousness where you're not disturbed. Srila Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces, but he was always praying for the persons who are beating him so they could get, liberation. So, we can't imitate Haridas Thakur's level of tolerance, but at the same time, we can understand, well, I have a certain level of tolerance, but if something goes a little bit beyond that level, and I somehow fall victim to that, then all right, so I made a mistake, I'm sorry. I'll try to work on that and correct it and so I don't fall victim to that again. So that we should do, that's all. And as we practice that, it becomes more easier as each circumstances arises.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, I definitely understand the importance of how we have to, how I have to be and behave in those situations. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
You shouldn't be discouraged because you have somehow or other not come up to the standard in that situation. You just see, I made a mistake. I'm gonna have to depend on Krishna more. I have to remember Krishna more. I have to practice tolerance more. I have to practice becoming less disturbed by changes of happiness and distress.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah.
But when it comes to other people, if some other people are being exploited, then we get disturbed by that. We see some person unnecessarily is being offended or criticizes, then we become disturbed by that, but not for ourselves, but for the other people. That makes sense?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah. Thank you so much, Guru.
Yeah. Don't be discouraged because you're not on the highest platform. Just keep working.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
Yes, Guru
Keep
Maharaj.
engaging.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Maharaj, if you have time, I have one question, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So Maharaj, I came across this logo of Gaudiyas by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in that logo, there is Vaidhi, which is on the left side, and there is Raga on the right side. That logo is actually related to today's topic, which we are discussing. So in Vaidhi, there is Lakshmi Narayan, and in Raga, there is Radha Krishna in Golok. So does it mean that if we keep doing bhakti with only rules and regulations strictly, then we achieve Lakshmi Narayan in Vaikuntha. And when we add spontaneous love to it, then we may achieve Goloka, Radha Krishna. Does it
Yeah,
mean
Radha and Krishna are not worshipped with Aishwarya Bhav or rules of awe and reverence. They're worshipped in spontaneous devotion. The mood of Vrindavan is spontaneous devotion. That's why when Lord Chaitanya introduced the subject in our discussion to Sanatani, he immediately went to the residence of Vrindavan to show that this is where spontaneous bhakti is found. Free from all awe and reverence.
Okay. So when we are performing devotion only by following strictly rules and regulations, then does it mean
Well, that's a stage of bhakti. We have Lord Chaitanya is actually opening the opportunity for us to enter into the spontaneous devotional service. He mentions that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that unless you come to spontaneous devotional service, it's not complete. When love is there, what is the need for rules and regulations? Rules and regulations are meant to get you to the platform of love, but once love is there, rules and regulations don't apply. Just like if we have love for our husband or our wife, and it's really real love, then we get very natural in our relationship with each other. And all of the formalities that normally govern a relationship at the beginning no longer apply anymore. Just like Prabhupada said, the president of a particular country, he's known as Your Honor, Your Excellency, Mr. President. And when he's home, his kids jump on his back and play with him. And he's called Daddy. His wife has a pet name for him. So he's the same king, same president, but the relationship is different. So that Krishna is one, but he appears in different ways to accept our service accordingly. Vrindavan is the highest. Spontaneous attraction.
Okay.
And Krishna really, he mentions he's not so much inspired by awe and reverence. Doesn't attract him at all.
Thank you, Maharaj. I understood it. Thank you. Yeah, it's like I feel fortunate that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described about Raganuga, and our acharyas also have mentioned about it. Yes, yeah. We are very fortunate.
Yeah, only in this age of Kali, never in the other ages or in other ages of Kali is Vrindavan available. This is Mahaprabhu's mercy. Vrindavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vrindavan.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
We mentioned that word verse. Ramya Kashanam Vajavadu. Remember that verse we pulled up about a couple of weeks ago? This God means from the Chaitanya Manjusa, was it? Manjusa. Chaitanya Manjusa. Very rare verse. It's the only verse that we know from that scripture called the Chaitanya Manjusa. Ramya Kasana Brajabadu. What is that? I can't remember the first. Can you find that verse? Look for Ramya Ramya, R-A-M-Y-A. Ramya. Ramya K-A-S-C-A. Ramya Kasana. I can't remember the second. This is the second line, Ramya. Come in, Haribo. Close.
Is this the one, Sri Devi Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Mataji, I think this is the one.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. You found it? Yeah, Aranya Bhagavan Vrajay Satanayanta Dharma Vrindavan Ramya Kaschir Upasana Rajavadu Vargena Yankalpida Shastra Bhagavatam Prananam Amalam Prema Pumartamaham Itam Gaura Mahaprabhu Matam Atas Tataro Napara. The Supreme Lord is the worshipped, is the son of the King of Raj. His personal abode is Vrindavan. The most favorable mode of serving him is that which is practiced by the young maidens of Raj. The scripture Bhagavatam is a spotless source of reliable knowledge, and pure love of God is the supreme low goal of life. Such are the opinions of Gaura Mahaprabhu, and therefore we respect him implicitly. This particular translation is different than the general translation, but it's from the Chaitanya Mata Manjusa by Srinatha Chakravarti. I don't particularly like this translation that's given here. Let me get a better translation here. I'll be right back. There's another translation that for me sounds more complete. Okay, here it is. Arana Bhagavan Vrajay Sataniya Tadharma Vrindavan Ramya Kashi Upasana Rajavadu Vargene Vankalpita Srimad Bhagavata Purana Amalam Prema Pumartam Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mataridam Tata Dharanapa. And then there's 5 points in that. One, these are the points. One should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Krishna. Second point, Sri Krishna's transcendental abode, Vrindavan, is equally worshipable as Krishna. 3, the topmost form of worship is performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. 4, Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. And 5, pure love of God is the ultimate goal of life. This is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, Chaitanya Manu. If you know this verse, then you understand what comprises Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So I'll send it to you.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Sri Devi, she brought it up.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll see you all soon. This chapter is getting now to the final. There's, I think, 170 verses in the chapter. We're almost to the end, and the rest is all about spontaneous devotional service. Okay, so
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Tomorrow is class with the ISKCON Harrisburg devotees. The verse is 1.9.45 Srimad Bhagavatam.
what is that? What's the, give me that
Yeah,
again.
first cantos, 9th chapter, 45th verse, 1.9.45.
Same time, right?
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, 1.9.42. It's sorry,
42. And then the time
Yeah,
is
it's
the
same time, Guru Maharaj. 12 p.m. UK time and 5:30 p.m. is IST, Indian.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going out. I'll have to get back in time for the class. So I should be able to make it. Let's see.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Sri Devi.